All right, welcome to the first day of class for Chem 111. This is Dr. David Wren coming at you live from my office. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to be using this iPad. I'm going to do some handwritten notes on it, and some of these lectures are going to have been recorded over the summer when I taught this course. So you might see that this date right here says something in July, and that's fine. It turns out that the chemistry content hasn't changed much since I taught it in July. And in certain cases, I'll add some, but just know that, it's a lot of this content. It's actually to your advantage. I have more time to do other things and record a bunch of lectures, and I can upload them ahead of time. So just don't pay attention to that as much. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to have some general expectations. Remember that you should have done some introductory material, look at the syllabus, go and do the introductory survey, as well as going and doing the introductory video. Again, you don't have to do a video if you don't want to, if you're not comfortable doing that. It's completely up to you, but I will say no one's going to see your beautiful smile if you don't do a video, because everyone's wearing a mask all the time. And I think it's really hard to learn who people are. So it's a nice little reference point. So feel free to do whatever you're comfortable doing. It doesn't have to be anything high production. iPhone works great. Definitely that whatever you're comfortable with today. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the kind of how learning works. And so I think the most important thing is to think of me. I have this title of instructor or professor. That sounds nice. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think that's the best kind of description of what I do. I am really a learning facilitator. So, and what I mean by that is, my job is to really provide you the tools, the motivation, and the information to learn the material. And the hard work is really doing that process. I'm there to provide you kind of step-by-step, do this, give you feedback on how you're working in the process formatively, which means I'm not grading it, or it's not for a grade, and also summatively, which means it is for a grade, to help you get better. To kind of understand how that works, we can do it graphically in terms of the learning process. And so I like thinking about it. So if we say this is the learning process, one of the most powerful things to understand about this class is that it doesn't matter what your background is. Some students are coming in from an AP chemistry background, but most of you are going to be coming in from I had chemistry as a sophomore in high school and I don't remember much background. Some of you are retaking the class. I realize that we come from many different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, that won't matter, and that will not predict your outcome in this course. What will predict your outcome is your mindset on day one, and your effort, and your ability to adapt and change with the feedback that's provided to you. So, how do we get there? So if we look at, we make a graph here, and we're going to say on the y-axis is going to be mastery of course material. Okay, what I mean by mastery is the ability to use information to solve novel problems. Would be kind of like the highest level of understanding or mastery. And what we're going to look at is if this is 100%. So if we go up here and we say this is 100%, you have understood and can use all the information that you're expected to in the course. Well, we want to get there. That's kind of ultimate goal. To know it and to be able to use it. Okay, so there is some expectation that we have some baseline knowledge coming in. And so we basically need to get to a spot at the beginning of lecture. So this is kind of like at the beginning of a lecture on a specific topic, we need to have some level of understanding. So I can't teach you every prerequisite material. I will go over it and I'll answer any question that you have, but it might be quick. And so you'll definitely want to get feedback on like what do you know and what do you need to learn before lecture. And so that's where we use Alex. So that is to say that if this is your high school prep, it could be a previous class. And for some of you who haven't taken chemistry before, you're going to have nothing. And so you might be starting from the bottom, and you're going to have to do a lot of work before lecture begins. Others are going to maybe have a little bit, and it turns out that some people might have very little to do because you took the class last semester, maybe didn't do as well as you wanted, or you took AP Chemistry, Honors Chemistry in your senior year, whatever the case may be. I know some of you were in AP Chemistry if you're freshmen and then didn't take the AP Chemistry course. So again, the AP Chemistry test. So lots of reasons. So the idea here is that whatever your background is, you all have equal opportunity to be prepared going into lecture. And the way that you do this is Alex. You can work ahead with the topics to work out problems, to basically come to class with questions, to have the vocabulary down. So Alex is a wonderful tool to get everyone to where they want to be in lecture. Now, a common misconception is that a lot of learning actually happens in lecture. And if we look at the overall mastery of things, lecture, if this is lecture, there's not a whole bunch of learning that's going on. And this is the kind of the idea when I say facilitator of learning, that you're not going to walk into class as an empty vessel. I'm not going to fill you up with a bunch of knowledge, and you're going to walk away, and it's all going to be retained by you in your long-term memory. That's not the way it works at all. We have different levels of understanding. So we can, how much mastery we get will really kind of, if this is a shaded of how much we actually learn, will depend greatly on if we have some active learning. So, we have a little bit, just like, being awake, hearing terms, staying awake the whole lecture. That might get you something. But, participating in active learning, how much we are engaging, and a lot of that, it's much easier to be actively engaged in a class if you know the terms ahead of time. If you kind of have an idea what's going on, and Alex can get you there, you'll find that it's just much easier. Alex is actually very hard if you start a topic in Alex, but it makes lecture much easier for this reason. Okay, but we have a long way to go. So we've go to lecture. You might have some questions answered. You might have some new questions that are created, and so basically at this point, you can have work that's going to get you to a D, a C, a B, and an A. Now, most of this is going to have to do with out-of-class learning. And that can take many shapes and forms. So we can continue using Alex both in the learning objectives and with the homework assignments that are provided. We also have practice problems that are assigned, practice problems. We have old exams and quizzes to provide you kind of high-level type problems. There are different resources such as going to the chemistry center to just basically talk about the material. Not chemistry center. Teaching someone, trying to learn a topic and then try to teach it to someone else is actually a great way to kind of figure out where the gaps in your understanding of knowledge are. I know when I teach a new subject or a new topic, I figure out my own understanding and fill in those gaps as well. Okay, so a lot of this is effort. A lot of the difference between the B's and the A's come from effort. If you don't get most or all of your Alex points, it's going to make a big difference in your overall grade. So don't let those points slide by. And you'll see in the Canvas today, I've actually made a nice little infographic that gives you a process. This is not the only way to do it, but this is generally how students tend to learn. Now, I will say though that if this says step 1, start with Alex, and step 2 is lecture. Now, some students will actually flip-flop these. Some students are like, you know what, I really like to hear the content first before I do Alex, and that's completely fine. But you have to understand that when I assign things, so if I have if we're talking about, if we have a specific topic that I'm going to discuss, what you'll find is that if we look at the timing of it, that I tend to, so like let's say this is a given, let's say it's like balancing equations, for example, balancing equations or some topic. The idea is that I will assign an Alex assignment before we start talking about it. That is, you'll already have this assignment that you can be working on that has this topic. I will then have lecture, but you'll notice there's a little gap here where you have to finish your Alex before I've finished talking about the topic. And that means you have to work a little bit ahead at some point, but you can have a little bit of overlap there. And then this would be kind of practice homework or other types of problems that are assigned that I want you to do after we talk about it in lecture. So I always assign the Alex learning objectives, and then we go over it in lecture, and then you have homework problems in Alex and in practice problems, which are not for grade, but for practice. But you definitely want to do those to help get you ready for your assessments. So again, Alex and lecture can kind of flip-flop. Figure it out. I strongly suggest trying to do Alex first. It might be very beneficial to you. And if you say, hey, this isn't working for me, that's fine. You get that feedback and figure it out. But I would definitely try Alex first. I have a lot of data that shows that works best. Okay, we got these mini lectures. Again, this one's going a little over the kind of 6 to 10 minutes. Some of them do. But again, you can pause, take a break. That's the nice thing about these being recorded. And so after lectures, I have breakouts. So breakouts are old test questions. They tend to be worksheets I would normally hand out and have you work out in lecture. In this case, I'm going to have you do them. And so these are going to be things that you will actually fill out and submit back, and I will do basically correct, like you completed it, you get the full points, you didn't turn it in, or it's incomplete, and you don't get those points for the day, and those all add up over the course of the semester. Definitely don't lose those points. Those, again, are pretty easy to get. Just turn them in. We have practice problems. So practice problems are going to be problems, old test questions, old practice, like homework problems. Will be a key as well. You're going to want to just kind of go through those as a way to see what you understand, what you don't. Again, these are all going to be posted on Canvas, and starting on these earlier than later, it's definitely not something you want to do the night before an assessment. And then the last thing is weekly quizzes. And this is really going to give you feedback. You've done these steps, the whole learning process. You're going to take the quiz, and then you're going to evaluate, okay, how did that go? Did I feel comfortable? Did I understand the material? Did I feel like I had enough time? So there's a lot of feedback that you can get from quizzes, and because quizzes are coming at you every week, you have lots of time to change your learning approach each week and see how it goes on the assessment. So it's a nice little check-in point. Okay. So this is the learning process that we expect for the class. Again, a lot of learning happens outside of class, and I will say during all of these steps, we will be having office hours often, and office hours are always something that are underutilized. I do feel, and we'll be talking about this in our learning cohorts, students are very concerned that I will find out that you don't that know chemistry as well as that you might believe that you should, and I have a little notebook of students who ask questions that they should know the answers to, and that I'll have a negative opinion. And I just want to clarify that I will never, ever, ever think of any student negatively if they actively show up to office hours. Coming to office hours shows any instructor that you care about the course, you want to do well, and that you're putting out the effort to do so. Okay, there are lots of reasons why people don't come to office hours. I will never think negatively if you don't come to office hours, but I will generally put you in a positive light. I will get to learn your name. I know that you're working hard. And at the end of the lecture, or not at the end of the lecture, end of class, this is going to be something I'm thinking about. I know that Joe was working super hard. He was coming to office hours, and that's going to give me a much better kind of holistic perspective of a student and their effort when I'm determining their grade. So again, coming to office hours with some level of preparation is always important. You don't want to come to office hours and be like, yo, I didn't watch the lecture. Can you just summarize that for me? That's probably not going to work for you or me. But definitely say, hey, I was watching the lecture and I have these questions. Or I had these questions from Alex. I had questions from the practice problems, and I'm happy to go over those with you, work through those with you, just to talk to you about the material. It's a great way to also meet some students from the class. So office hours are going to be essential. Definitely check those out. So this is just an example of a mini lecture. I'm going to be writing these out by hand, and I'll be posting them. So definitely have some notes, some paper, however you want to take notes. I like to use lots of colors, so you might as well, especially kind of when we're going through a lot of writing and different types of annotations. It might be helpful. So more of this to come.